You must, you ought to, you should, it's not negotiable. These words were in Amy's mind, but she didn't even realize they were there. They were just background noise. She became aware of them in one of our sessions by using mindfulness and movement. She began to talk about how she felt she should say yes to working extra hours, even though she didn't want to. She became tense. She sat up stiffly. Her gestures became small and still. She pushed her hands down as though bracing herself. I asked her to repeat these movements and gestures, slowing them down, exaggerating them, and using mindfulness to pay attention to her thoughts, her feelings, and her body experience. And that's when she discovered those words were hovering in her thoughts and that they were speaking through her body language. She realized that this response came from worry about letting others down. Ignoring herself and feeling obligated to take care of other people had become an automatic habit. She knew this was getting in her way, causing her anxiety, and keeping her from what she wanted. But just knowing this wasn't enough to change it. We decided to see what might happen if we took those thoughts out of her head so that she could experience what it might be like without them running the show. We agreed that I would say those words standing in front of her to symbolize them being in her way. Behind me, Amy could sense how she felt stuck in a corner. She had a lot of restless energy that felt trapped in her body. It made her feel jittery and anxious. She realized that she wanted to smooth things over, making that gesture of pushing her hands down. She was leaning back, and her vision was right in front of her. She wanted to escape her discomfort and calm her body, but she also really wanted to change that habit of ignoring her own instincts. So she used mindfulness to pay attention to the wisdom that she might find in her feelings and her body. Slowly, she began to notice changes. She felt less jittery. She felt energized in a whole new way. Her legs beneath her felt stronger. She began to look all around the room, and she had an impulse to move forward. She bent her knees, and with a sweep of her arms, she passed me, moving into the space beyond. Her movement was clear and direct and strong. She immediately had a sense of freedom. She felt like a child discovering a whole new world. She wanted to dance playfully, with me nearby as a witness. Her movement was light and expansive. Then she began to move more slowly, eventually becoming still. She felt sadness and grief, realizing that she had felt disconnected from herself for a long time. As these feelings eased, she began to feel joy and a sense of newfound possibility. In the weeks that followed, it was easier for Amy to pay attention to herself and her body. She listened to her feelings and her needs, and she was surprised to find that this actually strengthened her relationships. She was excited to learn that she didn't have to sacrifice herself in order to be connected with others. She found that her movement was more often light and playful, but she also had more comfort in moving in ways that were strong and direct. By exploring this experience through her body and movement, Amy was able to make profound changes in those limiting thoughts that had been such a barrier. You must, you ought to, you should. It's not negotiable. These are no longer the automatic backdrop in her thoughts. Instead, she knows, with her brain and with her body, that she can say, maybe, perhaps, I might. It is negotiable.